Published 21:47 Eastern Standard Time, the 4th of November 2018. Updated 4:30 Eastern Standard Time, the 5th of November 2018. China will lower import tariffs and continue to broaden market access, President Xi Jinping said today at the opening of a week-long trade expo that aims to rebrand the country as a global customer. The China International Import Expo is part of official efforts to defuse trade tension while resisting pressure to roll back industry plans that Washington, Europe, Japan and other governments say violate its market opening obligations. She also promised to accelerate opening of the education, telecommunications and cultural sectors, while protecting foreign companies' interests and enhancing punitive enforcement for infractions of intellectual property rights. China will lower import tariffs and continue to broaden market access, President Xi Jinping said today at the opening of the China International Import Expo, CIIE, in Shanghai today. President Donald Trump seen at a rally on Sunday in Chattanooga, Tennessee. The ongoing trade war has sunk relations between the world's two largest economies. Xi's remarks come at a time of heightened tension between China and some of its biggest trade partners, particularly the United States, which has imposed tariffs on $250 billion, £190 billion worth of Chinese goods so far. Xi's remarks come at a time of heightened tension between China and some of its biggest trade partners, particularly the United States, which has imposed tariffs on $250 billion, £190 billion worth of Chinese goods so far. China has retaliated with $110 billion, £85 billion worth of tariffs on U.S. goods. It is our sincere commitment to open the Chinese market, Xi said in a speech to a VIP audience that included Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev. She promised to stimulate the potential to increase imports, including by cutting costs for importers and improving consumer spending power. China expects to import $30 trillion, £23 trillion worth of goods and $10 trillion, £7 trillion worth of services in the next 15 years, he added. Microsoft founder Bill Gates talks with Alibaba chairman Jack Ma at the trade fair today. The China International Import Expo is part of official efforts to rebrand the country as a global customer and diffuse trade tension while resisting pressure to roll back industry plants. A robot wielding a paper fan amongst origami paper cranes is displayed at the trade fair today. Some 3,600 companies from 152 countries selling everything from Egyptian dates to German factory machinery are attending the 5-day event at a Shanghai convention center that bills itself as one of the world's biggest buildings. Xi's government is emphasizing the promise of China's growing consumer market to help diffuse complaints. Beijing abuses the global trading system by reneging on promises to open its industries. Business groups complain that while Beijing is expanding imports to serve its manufacturers and consumers, it blocks access to industries including finance and logistics. They say regulators are trying to squeeze foreign competitors out of promising fields such as information security. Prime ministers and other senior officials of governments including Egypt, Pakistan and Vietnam also are attending the fair. The United States, China's biggest trading partner, had no plans to send a high-level envoy. The expo is likely not a huge benefit or attraction for U.S. companies, said the chairman of the American Chamber of Commerce in China, William Zaret, in an email. Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev speaks at the opening ceremony of the trade fair. Visitors stand near a helicopter displayed at the China International Import Expo. Many may be attending because they think it is politically smart, said Zaret. However, unless some of the protectionist trade barriers currently in place are changed, it won't make much difference either way. She made no mention of Beijing's fight with President Donald Trump over Chinese plans for state-led development of technology industries. But in an indirect reference to Trump's America First policies and threats of import controls, he appealed to other governments to jointly safeguard free trade. China has cut tariffs and announced other measures this year to boost imports, which rose 15.9% in 2017 to $1.8 trillion, £1.3 trillion. But none addresses U.S. complaints that prompted Trump to impose penalty tariffs of up to 25% on $250 billion, £190 billion, of Chinese imports. Chinese leaders have rejected pressure to roll back plans such as Made in China 2025, which calls for state-led creation of global champions in robotics and other fields. Some American officials worry that might erode U.S. industrial leadership. Last week, Trump and Xi had what China's foreign ministry called an extremely positive phone conversation. They plan to meet this month during the Group of 20 gathering of major economists in Argentina, but private sector analysts say a breakthrough is unlikely. She also promised to accelerate opening of the education, telecommunications and cultural sectors while protecting foreign companies' interests. Xi's government is emphasizing the promise of China's growing consumer market to help diffuse complaints Beijing abuses the global trading system. Attendees walk past robotic arms displayed at the China International Import Expo. Chinese President Xi Jinping has promised to open China's market wider and lower import tariffs. The fight has added to challenges for communist leaders who are trying to shore up economic growth that slumped to a post-global crisis low annual rate of 6.5% in the 3 months ending in September. They also are struggling to revive confidence in a stock market that has tumbled 25% this year to become the world's worst performer. She acknowledged some Chinese industries face growing risks but said efforts to shore up growth are already paying off. The fundamentals for sound and steady growth of the Chinese economy remain unchanged, he said. The expo fits in with Beijing's quest to develop a trading network centered on China and increase its influence in a Western-dominated global system. China already is the No. 1 market for its Asian neighbors and is promoting its multi-billion-dollar Belt and Road initiative to expand commerce by building ports, railways and other infrastructure across 65 countries from the South Pacific through Asia to Europe and Africa. The fair lets Beijing show it is making efforts to boost imports, said Rajiv Biswas, chief Asia economist for IHS Markit. But it is unlikely to have much impact on its politically sensitive trade balance with the United States. Some 3,600 companies from 152 countries selling everything from Egyptian dates to German factory machinery are attending the 5-day event in Shanghai. A police patrol boat displayed at the China International Import Expo in Shanghai today. The trade fair lets Beijing show it is making efforts to boost imports. Analysts say a U.S.-Chinese deal will require significant measures by the Chinese authorities to reduce bilateral trade imbalances and to protect U.S. intellectual property rights, Biswas said. Europe, Japan and other trading partners have criticized Trump's tactics but echo U.S. complaints. European leaders are frustrated that Beijing bars foreign acquisitions of most Chinese assets while its own companies are on a global buying spree. Last week, the French and German ambassadors to Beijing appealed for changes including an end to requirements that foreign companies operate in joint ventures with state-owned partners. Writing in a Chinese business magazine, they called for an overhaul of rules they say hinder companies from profiting from and protecting their technology. The Shanghai Expo also gives Beijing a chance to repair its image as a positive for global development following complaints Belt and Road leaves host countries with too much debt while too little work goes to local companies. Governments including Nepal, Sri Lanka and Thailand have scrapped or scaled back projects. Kenya and other nations have run into trouble repaying Chinese loans.